Hi, welcome to the small shed. This week we're finally putting the bus bunk together. See you in a minute. So this is it. We're marking the final stage, I think, in the project. I've just checked back at some of the notes and things that I did when this was first mooted. The first drawings I pulled down off the internet of London buses were November 2018, so it just shows how long it's been sort of gestating. And it was about 2 years while I was thinking about that on and off. The first timbers arrived in November 2020, and I think we finally finished actually making it in February, end of February 2021. So it's taken about 4 months in construction, but it's been, over 2 years in thinking about. Partly that was because there was no need for the bus to be completed until my grandson was big enough to get into a bunk. He was in a small bed that was plenty big enough for him at the time. So let's go out and have a look, see why we're putting it all together, and see what the stages are in assembling it. Right, so here we are, 16 weeks I think it is since we started the first delivery of timber. I've got bits in the house, bits in the conservatory. It's pretty much now all finished. What I'm going to do now is just assemble the whole thing again for the last time before it goes away. Just to pick up odd bits of trimming that are needed. I've just had to trim the wheel arch by about 10mm, and there's been a little bit of damage where I've stacked pieces against one another. Something I've got to keep an eye on when I put it back into storage. But really it's just to make sure that all the pieces are painted in the right places and that there are no areas that when I put it all together I find I've got a problem. Bits of damage like that, where that's probably been slightly damaged along the bottom edge when I pulled it out of the garage. Just do all that last bit of touching up, double checking everything's painted in the right places, and then we can put it to bed. So I'll just put it on time lapse I think for that, and we'll see how it goes. First thing to do was to put together this back section. It forms basically the main structure for it. It forms like a box section, and it was something that had to be assembled first because I couldn't put those two pieces together after one of them had been attached to the side. They had to be attached as a pair to just slot in on the side. As I say, with the back on it, it forms almost like a box section that holds the back rigid and straight. It also needed the little strip putting along the back, which was the main support for the back wall, which I hadn't actually fixed previously. And really that was why I was having the final assembly, so that all the little bits like that had never been done before could all be assembled at once and make sure it all fitted together. Once I've got all the full assembly done, I'll take it apart, and every piece that I take apart will be put into a box, so that I've got all the fixings taken down with me rather than just dumping them back and hoping I'll have the right stuff when I come to reassemble it. A lot of the use of this was also to give me a clue as to the order in which it had got to be put together, because I hadn't fully sort of thought through exactly how each component needed to go and in which order. Certainly what is effectively the offside of the bus will be assembled first, because that will eventually then be pushed up against a wall, and then you can get on with the rest of the bus. Once the back section was put together, put all the cross members in at the base, and again they'd only been pushed in previously, and this time it was actually using all the barrel nuts and bolts and putting it together that way. Near side, offside lower panel then on next, and again it was all about making sure that I hadn't left any places where there wasn't any paint, because in the end I decided there was no need to paint huge areas that were sandwiched together. Again, the front lower deck, front part with the radiator on, will all be left as a complete unit and just popped in the back of a van, rather than have to take apart the 10 or 15 bits that are making it up. You can see at this stage it's still easy enough to move around with one person. Lower sides put on the near side, same thing. And then I started to work on the upper deck bed supports. There's the panel that you climb over to get into the bed from the steps, and then all the cross members that support the pieces for the bed slats. Then we started on with the upper deck. In this case the outer panel goes on first, because that's actually attached to the inner panel of the lower deck, so that it starts to get some strength from joining the two panels, and then the inner top panel goes on after that. Fortunately, again, all of the bolts have lined up okay with the inserts. The problem I had when I did the pre-assembly was that one side didn't go together very well, and I think that was because the parts had been stacked against the radiator and had just stretched by a millimetre or two. You can see there I've actually taken the lower panel off because I'd forgotten to put the wheel arch trims on. We pop those back on. Again, something else that had never been fixed before and therefore needed to be pre-assembled, but they'll stay there once I take it to bits. It'll keep all those pieces on and make it a lot quicker to reassemble it. can see there'll be another inconsistency here with the continuity, in that I'm putting the side panels on, and again hadn't realised that the front panel upper had to be put on before the side panels were assembled. So there again you see they've had to come off, and again this is all part of the learning of the order in which it had got to be put back together again, because I'd sort of forgotten at some point along the line as to how it all went together. Hopefully when we come to do it down in Western it'll be a damn sight easier because of that.
So that's it finished. 3 months plus, and we've got it done at last. Still a couple of minor things to sort out, the odd bit of paint to touch up, but it basically fits together, and that's the important thing. I'll try out a couple of mattresses in it as well, and some bed slats. I know where I can borrow some from, but we'll have to organise some bed slats. But that's the finished job. We can go and tidy the garage, the conservatory and the shed up, and hopefully start something new.
So there we are, 2.5 years on from inception, 4 months on from starting to get timber to cut and work on, and we've got it finished. It's been useful in many ways, although it's been a bit of a pain in the last few weeks. It started to drag, and I will be glad to see the back of it. But it has been really useful through this lockdown period, because it's given me some sort of focus to have to get up for and do stuff on during the day, and it has helped divert your mind away from what's going on all around you. It will need assembling again down in Weston-super-Mare, and I'll probably just show a finished shot of that when it's up. But really that's the last of the bus bunk videos at last, so we can get on to something new. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I look forward to seeing you next week, and we'll be on to something different. I'll see you then. Bye.